We look at the late 1970s, right before NHL expansion, and we say to ourselves, who was the team that overachieved the most or didn't get enough of recognition prior to the merger? Well, it's got to be the 1978-79 Atlanta Flames. Now, this was the seventh year for the franchise. They finished fourth in the Patrick Division despite a very strong record in the campaign, 41-31-8. They were plus 47 in goals for, goals against. Cliff Fletcher as GM did a great job with Fred Crichton as coach and Tom Laziak as captain. Now the Omni was rocking that year, and not only because of the amount of goals, it's because how he started the season. Now, when a team goes undefeated in a whole month and beats the defending Stanley Cup champion en route to that, you know there was something good going on. Atlanta went undefeated in the first 12 games that year with a 10-0-2 record, and attendance was really starting to pick up. Now, the idea about Atlanta that year, they had a very heavy lineup especially with Guy Chouinard and Billy McMillan. Guy had 50 goals that year, while Bobby McMillan, get my McMillans mixed up, had 108 points. Now, they also were very good net. Don Bouchard had 32 wins. Reggie Lamla led with 3.32 goals against average. Now, what really hurt Atlanta was a mid-season slump right before Christmas. Now, he lost numerous games, including 6 out of 7 in late November, early December, and pretty well another 5 during the holiday season from the 19th to the 31st. Now, they made the playoffs, took on Toronto in the first round, but unfortunately not enough to beat the perennial top 8 and top 4 squad, losing in 2 straight in the old best-of-3 format. But this lineup, ladies and gentlemen, I must say, one of the best overall teams other than the Boston Bruins for diversified scoring. Like I said, McMillan at 108 points, Guy Chouinard at 107. Eric Vail had 35 goals and 83 points. Jean Pronovost, who moved over from Pittsburgh, had 67 points in 75 games, including 28 goals. Tom Laziak had 23 goals. Bobby Lalonde had 24 goals. Ken Houston had 21 goals. Willie Plett had 23, despite 213 minutes in the penalties. And he had other top players, including Bill Clement, Harold Filipoff, and their defense as well was quite successful. He had Dave Shand, Ed Kia, Pat Rebel, Brad Marsh, Bobby Murdoch, and Richard Mulhern. Now, he did do a major trade that year as well. We're going to talk about in a second. Now, that year, again, Reggie Lamla led with goals against average, 88-1. Danny Bouchard was 32-21-7. But the big season that year was the amount of trades that they picked up. They picked up, didn't keep him along, but Greg Shepard, a trade for Dick Redmond. Picked up Pronovost, Jerry O'Flaherty, Rod Sealing, Bobby Murdoch, and of course Bolarev, Rhoda, and Russell as part of that big trade with the Blackhawks, where Fox, Laziak, Filipoff, Rebel, and Zaharko went back. Now, they also signed Gene Carr and Reggie Lemelin, Ray Cummo, and Abe DeMarco as free agents. Now, the big one, of course, here was the overall strong play. Brad Marsh was a big draft pick that year, came out of the number 1 in the draft to be a key defenseman, and later on Tim Bernhardt was a big draft pick, did well for them as well. But I saw most of their games against Montreal that year, and I was still surprised. They were kind of like the early version of Quebec Nordiques. They could play defense, but sometimes it wasn't there. Now you look at some of the games they lost. They lost a November 14 game against Washington, 8-7. Okay, they had a series of contests where again they would score a lot of goals, like against St. Louis and Buffalo, score 4 or more, give up 7 or 5. But I think the key loss for them, which discouraged a lot of fans, was a 10-4 loss in the Islanders on December 28, 1978, which some people consider one of the worst defeats in the modern Atlanta Flames history. Now, they lost a lot of games that year, 2-1, 4-3, 4-2, 31 losses, but they would go like hot and cold. There was a sequence of games. They went 8 games undefeated in February and March of of 79, then lose 5 out of 6, then get back on the win streak. So it was either hot and cold, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Guy Chouinard was a very underrated player, and the guy for Hockey Night in Canada said, as long as Guy gets these points, they're not going to score in the third period. Like, it wasn't like killer instinct points, it was literally third period. But this was like the swan song for Jean Pronovost, who basically also scored 2 goals in the playoffs that year. And I honestly thought with Pittsburgh, you'd have enough of a chance to reach the Stanley Cup. He stayed with Atlanta one more year before moving on to Washington, and no matter where he went, he scored goals, of course. But of course, Pronovost was a big Team Canada participant in 77 and 78, and helping them win bronze there in the 78 World Championship tournament. So I mean, it's pretty amazing when you look at it, because Atlanta would have worked if they would have gone far in the playoffs. See, 74, the promise of when he played the Flyers in the first round, shook them up a little bit. That's the Bob Leiter years. But, Bouchard at the time was still, like I said, could come up with the big game. But when he was off, there's games he lost that season. There should have been no reason at all, which I talked about in previous podcasts. One of the most inconsistent goalies in NHL history. When he was on, he's on and off. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the 1978-79 history of the Atlanta Flames. If you like what we're doing here, give us a like, comment, or subscribe. And don't forget, that's kind of how the NHL was in 79. We were still not sure what was going to happen with expansion. And the expansion really hurt Atlanta, because obviously with the Western teams that came in, that's why I saw the shift. Anyway, have a good day. Bye.